Hey everyone, welcome back to Inside Indiana Overtime, or as our guest says it, Inside Indiana Overdrive. This is Mike Miller from the Bloomington Herald-Times, because Seth Tao is sick, unfortunately. He's under the weather, and he wasn't able to be here at Memorial Stadium tonight to see Indiana beat Maryland 42-36, behind Indiana's best rushing game in years. Indiana came into this game in its first four conference games. Indiana ran for a total of 427 yards. Today, this afternoon, Indiana ran for 414, and 5 players rushed for touchdowns, which is the first time, at least that IU staff people can find on record of Indiana doing that. What do you think it was that kind of created this change for Indiana?
I think it all starts with the offensive line. That's really where I've kind of pointed, with some of the failures and shortcomings of this team over the last month or so since they got into Big Ten play, or maybe even before that, with Dan Feeney being out and Dimitri Camille, probably out for the rest of the year. They played really well today, and the running lanes were just huge. They were gaping. There was a lot of room to run, and that's been a problem. I thought it was interesting just talking to Xander Diamant in particular. He's the one who put it out there, just saying early in the week after they reviewed the film from Northwestern, it was cold and unforgiving. Just all the mistakes they made, just the lack of execution basically that they had in that game. And they had a players-only meeting earlier this week. And in that meeting, I think they spoke, what it sounds like, they spoke in very frank terms and pointed to the offensive line and said, hey, you guys aren't getting it done. You're not playing up to the standard you've set over the past couple seasons. Get it fixed. Get it fixed now. Because this was a must-win game for Indiana. There's no doubt about it. To stay on a reasonable course to 6 wins, you got to beat Maryland. So the fact that the offensive line could rebound and just show more cohesion, just show just making the plays that they make. There were so many missed blocks, I think, against Northwestern. I went back and watched the game. I just saw so many opportunities where a block here may have sprung someone for 10 yards or frankly a touchdown, or a block there would have picked up a few extra yards in the key moment. They just missed so many routine plays that they've been making in previous seasons, and maybe it's not fair to compare this line to the previous lines, but they still have Dan Feeney, they still have Greg Fry, who I believe is a really good coach, coaching them up. So I think the biggest thing for me was just seeing that offensive line just frankly maul. Come out and play up to its strengths.
Yeah, absolutely. There have been a lot of and we've talked about this of just watching this team play the past few weeks. There have been a lot of plays like that where maybe a lineman is just like a step slow on a screen, or a step off, or just can't hold a block for that extra kind of second, and they were able to do that tonight. I wrote about kind of comparing Diamant's last touchdown run, his 52-yard run, to against Nebraska. He had kind of a similar play where he pulls the ball off a zone read, and it was a 4th and 1, and as soon as he took a step, he had like a couple guys in his face. And then tonight, another vital, it was a 3rd and 3, and Indiana basically would be able to ice the game if they got that first down. And he pulls it again and goes to the outside, and there's just nothing in front of him. And he runs untouched for 52-yard touchdown. And it's just like, it's the little things like that where Indiana made the play when it needed to, and it made those little plays that mattered. And there are a lot of, there's the Richard Lego throw earlier on that last drive on 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 5 or whatever it was to convert to Nick Westbrook, and it just seemed like Indiana made all those little plays that mattered.
They even let Xander throw a little bit too. He
yeah.
had one really nice throw on just a kind of a crossing route to Ricky Jones that set up a 5-yard run for Richard Lego, who obviously is not known for his legs at all. Those are little plays you got to do, obviously, to keep Maryland honest, and I think also maybe to give Xander some confidence, and the guys around him some confidence in him that he can make those throws when he's in the game, because I think he might play a little bit more going down the stretch. I don't know that we'll see it exactly to this degree with the big bacon package used to this extent going forward, as Kevin Wilson said. You can scheme against us now that you have it on film. But again, there's a good purpose that Xander serves on this team, and having Richard Lego back to the form we've seen on and off at times, the best version of Richard Lego, I think, is good. But I do think that Xander has a place in this team too. And again, it's a little thing here or there that he can do, but it definitely has a purpose.
Absolutely. You mentioned the big bacon, package with
We're
Tyler
calling it
and
that,
Sure, yeah. Tyler and Xander Diamant, the odd couple back there of 270 pound or 80 pound or whatever. Tyler and 170 pound, whatever, Xander Diamant, and we've seen Indiana running the Wildcat with Tyler T like in practices. We saw that, but not like this.
No.
I mean, this is two quarterbacks, kind of. I mean, Tyler T played quarterback in high school and just has a good kind of mind for the game and really good hands. Diamant was really talking about it. He has really good hands and really good kind of instincts for when to pull and when to give. And they kind of went back and forth, taking snaps and running it, and it's just, I don't know, it was unlike anything that I can really recall seeing at this level. And it worked great.
It was fun to watch.
Yeah, it was. It was insane.
It was. It is. I mean, every time that guy touches the ball, Tyler Nate, it's like, what? I mean, the whole story, how he ended up here is amazing. We won't have to go through it now, but just the fact that so many other schools were afraid to really pursue him because they weren't sure where he fit. I mean, he's certainly not going to be, a dedicated quarterback at this level. He's, the teams were even, wondering, can he even handle a load as a featured running back of some sort, even as a change of pace type guy? Is he that? Is he a defensive lineman? That kind of thing. But I mean, again, the fact that he has that background as a quarterback, as that kind of running back, fullback in his high school offense, and he has those instincts. I mean, it's really fun to watch. Just
it was hilarious.
The offensive mind of Kevin Wilson just tinkering with toys like Tyler Nate in that offense.
Yeah, with Nate and with Diamant, two guys who don't necessarily have a singular position. I mean, Diamant is a quarterback, but he's not any kind of prototypical anything. But both of them ran for 100 yards. Divine Redding ran for 100 yards. Second time ever that Indiana's had 3 100-yard rushers in a game. And then we'd be remiss to not talk about the defense a little bit as well, because Maryland kind of ran all over them at times. They ended up totaling, I think, 517 total yards. Maryland did. Ran for a bunch. Ty Johnson, who was averaging more than 10 yards per carry, coming in, again, averaged 10.9 today, had a 66-yard run. That Indiana had at least 2 really decent chances to bring him down for, a gain of 15 or 30 or something, and he just blew through him. But Indiana's defense, it showed signs of imperfection, certainly. There were a lot of plays that really didn't look great, and Maryland should have probably had a couple more touchdowns, but Perry Hills missed a couple guys deep down the field. But when it mattered, Indiana, again, like we said earlier, they kind of made the plays that they needed to and forced a couple takeaways. There's obviously the big one near the goal line where Marcus Oliver had a strip sack and then Marcelino Ball jumped on it. I was really excited for that play because I thought Ralph Green was going to pick it up and run into the end zone.
Oh gosh,
which would have been one of the highlights of the season. But unfortunately, they just jumped on the ball. But the defense in general, I mean, it's carried Indiana for a lot of the season as the offense has been, like we said, just not reliable at all. And then tonight, they kind of held each other up, mutually. And it was kind of neither side of the ball was perfect at all, but they both were able to do enough to hold each other up and get this win tonight.
Be amazing to see what this team would look like with an offense is playing up to its potential, and certainly as we've seen the defense through I think at least for 6, probably 7 games. I mean, just as well as they've played throughout the bulk of the season, it would just be fascinating to me to watch an Indiana team that's going to click on both ends.
Yeah. So we'll see if Indiana kind of continues to improve on both sides of the ball. If this offense can play like this moving forward. I mean, Kevin Wilson said after the game that the big bacon package isn't a fix. It isn't going to totally rejuvenate this offense, but I have to imagine that they'll keep using it in some capacity just because it worked so well here tonight. But we'll see what happens as Indiana hits the road next week to take on Rutgers. Again, a very winnable game and a fairly important game for Indiana's bowl chances.
Have to win this one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a game you point to in March and say, all right, you have to beat Rutgers. Right. I mean, that's probably where you begin mapping out your bowl wins, Rutgers and Purdue, and from there you kind of piece it together. But this was a must-win today, and obviously that continues into next week.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe Indiana's going to be fired up, looking back at its total collapse against Rutgers last year. Who knows? I don't know. I'm sure they won't say anything like that. But anyway, for Mike Miller of the Herald-Times, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's always fun. And I'm Alex McCarthy. Thanks for watching, and we will talk to you very soon.